I don't think it's Jarvis. I think Stankoven becomes more of a possibility, and that's judging off of actions. And the reason why I say that is Jarvis has been around on a team that has needed center help, and he hasn't often been given the chance. So it's kind of like, what has Jarvis become that he wasn't last year, right? When the maybe healthy might be the deal. Maybe it was the shoulder injury that was holding him back, but I don't know how that's standing moving forward. But last year in the postseason, it was Kokiniemi, it was Roslovic, it was Jankowski with the second line centering, and really at no point in time did they go let's throw Jarvis into that rotation and see what works. The reason why I say Stankoven might get the opportunity is just because he hasn't been around as long, right? It's one thing to throw a guy who was still technically a rookie last year, but was on a new team as of mid-season, and say, get yourself settled on the wing, and then we're going to try you on in the middle. So I think moving forward, as he becomes more comfortable and the coaches become more comfortable, maybe they give him a shot. But it's like if you haven't done it up till now, why would you have Jarvis do it? Now, he's been around for a long time. I
mean, Sebastian Aho was a winger his first several years in the NHL before Rob moved into center. It was about 3-4 years before that move was made.
And I guess there are similarities there. For whatever reason, I look at them as very different players. And maybe it's a bit of the size thing, although you can't really say Sebastian Aho is like the biggest dude in the world.
Bigger than those other two.
True. I'm just saying it's it's not like, because he's big he gets to be a center. Like they're undersized across the board. Rod Brind'amour was asked by Adam Gold on the Adam Gold Show earlier today, right here on 99.9 The Fan. He was asked about the possibility of moving Jarvis or Stankov into center, and he didn't exactly slam the door. Here's the audio.
Well, it's for sure a consideration. I mean, you just look at now with the additions that we have, it's pushing some wingers, if not down the lineup, maybe even out, right?
Right.
And so that's a to avoid that, then somebody would have to slide in there, and so that's something you definitely tossing around. And both those guys you mentioned, haven't played center in the NHL, but they did at younger days, which helps a little bit. So I can not 100% say that that's going to happen, but it's definitely an option that we're seriously looking at.
Here's what we don't know. We don't know if either player wants to do it. Because I think that matters, right? If they're clamoring for it, if they're working at it, if they're coming in every offseason and saying, look how good my face-off is. Like if they're doing those sorts of things, I think that changes things. I also believe, and Dennis, again, I'll lean on you because, as I say, I point out my blind spots. I've never played hockey. If you just take their 12 most talented forwards, or heck, if you just take if you say that's subjective, if you just take their 12 highest paid forwards, you have somebody that's going to have to that is considered currently a winger is going to have to play center. So if the idea is get your most talented 12, or we want our money on the ice, get those guys on the ice, somebody's going to have to do it. And then it almost doesn't, it almost doesn't even become, do we want to? It becomes who is best suited out of the options that we have, I guess makes sense. It's just a matter of like how difficult is it to do, and do you think you have the guys that can make it happen? I would be interested to see Stankoven in that, get that opportunity. I'd be interested to see Jarvis. I'm just wondering if you would make that move after kind of having so many other opportunities to do it, and maybe that's the difference with the Aho situation. And I don't recall, because it's been a handful of years now. I don't recall them being in like such desperate need for center his first couple of years, so you kind of got him to get his feet wet as a winger. With Jarvis, it's like, no, they've been needing a center for a couple of years now, and he still hasn't been getting those looks even occasionally. But I guess my question is like, how difficult is it, right? Like, is this like a right fielder moving to center field where it's like, it's kind of, could be difficult, but guys do it? Or is this like a first baseman moving to shortstop where it's like, I know you're all infielders, but One of these things is very different.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. Are you going from a third base to shortstop? Like it really is a lot different because, especially in Carolina's system, if you're a center, if you lose the faceoff, you're staying with the other team's center, like right from the get-go. And there's also just a lot more defensive responsibilities that come with that because if I'm a winger, we lose the faceoff. Okay, I got to go cover the defenseman. I got to go cover the point. Whereas if I'm a center and I lose the faceoff, well, now I'm down low, mixing it up with different guys, and there's just a lot more that comes with being around the net defensively. And if you're controlling like breakouts, there's a whole lot of just inside baseball stuff you want to get to. But nonetheless, there's a lot more demand skating wise. There's a lot more demand even defensively. And Seth Jarvis is a tremendous defensive forward. I mean, he's been voted top 12 in the Selke each of the last couple of years as a winger, which is relatively impressive when you think about it. But I mean, some of the best skaters are on the ice are centers. I mean, you're talking McDavid, Draisaitl, Nathan McKinnon. I mean, those are the kind Alexander Barkov. Those are the kinds of guys that you would have to match one-on-one against. And do you have the size and everything to keep up with them? And how much does that take away from your offensive production as well? Like, those are all things you have to balance of, okay, you might gain a little bit in some sense, but you also might lose in another way as well.
And that goes back to what I was saying, which is, do they want to do it?
Yeah.
Because they're both, by the way, it appears and sounds as if Rod Brind'amour absolutely loves Logan Stankoven. The long-term contract they signed shows what the franchise thinks of him. So, like, he's, I think, quickly going to move into that trusted category where you just know, like, he's going to make the decision to work hard every single night, and he's going to do the little things. But there is a certain subconscious, like, I'm a winger playing center, and then you ask him to do it, and it's like, I don't know, you get a little extra when you're doing something you want to do, right? You get the little extra when it was your idea. Do they want to? More from Brind'amour on the very same situation earlier today with Adam Gold. Rod Brind'amour was asked, would moving someone to center diminish their production? Obviously talking about guys like Jarvis and Stankoven mostly. Here's Rod's answer.
It kind of goes back to you would remember the debate about putting Marty Necas at center, and that doesn't mean they wouldn't be able to do it. Are you losing some of the high end stuff that they do on the wing? Mm-hmm. And is it really worth it? Like, okay, play center now. You're taking the 30 guy can pump in 30 and he gets 20, but he's playing good defense. Is that worth it?
Right.
It's kind of that concept. You don't want to take some of your best players and make them worse. By playing a position it is really hard. It's a hard position to play. So, it just adds another element, I guess, that takes away from your offense. You don't want that. So that's kind of the dilemma, and really we won't know until we do try it.
I first of all love all that insight, and it's true, right? If a 30 goal scorer becomes a 25 goal scorer, they're playing center, but they're saving 8 goals versus whoever else you'd be playing center on the defensive end. Mm-hmm. That's net positive 3, and it's really hard to see that 3, especially from where we're sitting on the outside, not crunching film and everything else. Do you know where and I've said this a billion times, but I would love to be. They're going to try somebody at center, and maybe it is Kokaniemi with the second line. I don't know. They're going to try somebody at center, if it's Stankoven or Jarvis. After they get 10 games. I would love to hear the conversation between Eric Tulsky and Rod Brind'amour on, is it working or not? Because, and by the way, neither, like, I'm going to paint them as almost characters of themselves, stereotypes of themselves, because I imagine, and neither of them are those far ends of the spectrum. They are somewhere in the middle. But I imagine Eric Tulsky is going to come with stats, right? He's going to come with analytics. He's going to say when he's on the ice as a center, this happens and this happens and this happens with high leverage chances and expected goals and blah, 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 and maybe even his own algorithms that we don't even have a name for. And then Rod Brind'amour is going to come with, I've played center at the highest level, and when I watch them, here's what I see. And watching those two ideas kind of meld and figure out, is it working or not, would be fascinating for me. Because they both might have a number, right? Rod Brind'amour might come in and say, yeah, we're probably going to cost him 10 goals scored, but, he's doing a really good job for us defensively. I see him as a positive 5. And Tulsky might go, well, I have him as a negative 3.764. Like, it might be that, and they're going to have to meld that somewhere and decide which direction to go. I think Rod would have the final decision on that, but they are, that's why it's good to have people that think differently around you, because you're gonna cover all of your bases.
And if you're playing center as well, especially if you're taking defensive zone faceoffs, you don't get the opportunities to score on the rush like a winger does, because the way the puck gets cleared out and all that, you just sometimes you might lose that. Like, for example, if you lose Stankoven as a winger, well, then what does Stankoven do really well? Like, the guy fights in the corners and gets pucks. Well, if I don't have him on the wing, I don't have him chipping and chasing the puck into the corner. So those are all things you have to take into consideration too.
And the depth of the position. How much better is he at winger than whoever would be skating his minutes at winger versus how much better is he at center versus whoever would be skating his minutes at center, and which one is helping the team the most. And that's assuming that, players are willing to sacrifice and all those sorts of things, which you give him long-term stability. It's not like he's playing for a contract, right?
No.
He's around for a while. Maybe now is the chance to experiment.